Good morning, everybody. Welcome again to Empowering Morning Conversation. So obviously, these are meant to empower us and to start the day on the right note. Okay. Now, a quick reminder, if your desires and your actions do not match each other, are you going to produce anything in your life? If you are not doing the actions to fulfill your desire on a day-to-day basis, okay, you may do any number of actions. But if you're not doing the correct actions, the ones which will make you move forward in the right direction, there'll be no movement, and the only thing you will be left with is complaining about why the world is not helping me, right? So do you want that? For the last couple of days, we are doing sessions on how to manage yourself. Okay, because unless you manage yourself, your habits, your actions, your thoughts, and your feelings, you're not going to have the energy or the focus or the actions which are required for you to fulfill your objectives in life. Okay, so we are doing a self-management series, one after the other, and I hope that I intend that you will actually use some of the things that we are talking to you. See, many of the things I've been already telling you many times. So I thought, let you listen to it from other sources as well, in a different format as well. Might help you to understand it. More importantly, it might help you to implement it. Because in 35 years training corporations all over the world, I've known one thing. It's easy to learn something. It's very difficult to sustain that learning. And it's very difficult to implement that learning and demonstrate it in your life. So you can listen to someone and get a great insight and say, oh yeah, I realized such and such thing about my life. So what? I mean, what actions have you taken after that? Are there any actions that you have taken? कुनैन जी एक जरा वो इंदू जी को रिमाइंडर आप कर सकते हैं?
जी जनाब.
Okay, great. So the idea is, how do you first of all internalize what you've learned, so that it becomes a part of you. The second one is, how do you sustain that? So you've internalized something today. Are you going to keep it going, or are you going to forget it within a week? And then, even more important is, are you going to implement what you already know? Okay. That is why for the last few days, you will find that we have people who are coming in, who are giving you inputs also on our behalf. And we are intending that you will use these inputs to make a difference to your life. All right. So yesterday you listened to Kunain, and today we have the honor of welcoming a very, very interesting person. And you've listened to her twice before on the topic of communication. And today I have asked her to do something about how to use NLP to manage yourself. So let's welcome Indu ji. Welcome, Indu. Over to you.
Good morning, sir. And very, very, very happy morning to all our friends here. Trust it's been a great start to a good day. And whatever unfolds only gets better and better in every way possible for all of us, right? On that day, I thank all of you for showing up today to be able to begin this day's journey together on an empowering context, right? As Sir has just put it, we've been looking at different ways of upping this game on communication. And life, if you look at it, is nothing but chunks of these communications, isn't it? These are experiences that we are gathering based on our interactions with people, interactions within ourselves, and interactions with the meta. And every day we have microscopic events which collectively accumulates into the process of life. So how are we looking at how do we manage the self in all these spaces? How can we perform at our effective best at each of these given instances? So we'll be looking at this process through a lens of NLP. NLP, as many of you might have been exposed to already, is a powerful communication tool. In fact, it was aimed at that when the founders, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, presented it. However, it is a very effective psychotherapeutic tool as well in the current day scenario. How do we use a process called neuro-linguistic programming? And how do we use that effectively to manage the self? This is what we'll be looking at, right? So as we begin, let's do this, a 2-minute process, right? Let's look at what is a challenge that you have at hand right now. It need not be the biggest problem of your life. Let's work at something which is mild to moderate, okay, in your opinion. Once you have identified that, give me a nod or a thumbs up so I'll know you've got what. Brilliant. Some of you have responded already. Let's give it a few more seconds for others too. Okay. I see a lot of hands going up. The others, just figure out something, anything that is challenging, pressing for your attention right now. Now, in this situation, look at what is it that you have in terms of your quality or your skill, knowledge, anything, any of these, okay, which will help you get through this, work through this issue. Name it. If you have a pen and paper by your side, pick it up so that you put it outside. You don't have to, go into your zone and get distracted. So write it so we are more specific. Right? Just jotting down the important words will do. Just write K, S, and Q. Knowledge, skill, a quality. What is it that you have that will help you get through something successfully? Or you could even look at a past event in the last 1 week, last month, something where you successfully got through some challenge or problem at hand, a situation at hand rather. What did you do? What skill did you display? What quality did you hold to successfully work through it? One of you can even unmute and share if you're already done writing. Just a word of which quality, which thought process, knowledge that you used. Okay. And the rest of you, as you're writing, move on to the next. Okay. What is that which is coming in the way between you successfully completing that task or dealing with that person? Whatever the situation that you're dealing with, what is the crunch here? What do you think is stopping you from completing that or from successfully dealing with that situation at hand? Right? So you have this in you, with you, right? Just keep this aside. Now look at something very basic. Okay, something very basic. Let's look at whatever you find in front of you. It can be your computer, your system, your phone, mobile gadget, the fan above, whatever it is. Just particular thing, or even if you spot your kid around, your spouse doing something in the background, whatever it is that you'd want to work with, okay, the person or a thing. Okay, now look at it and say, what is the most challenging bit about it? Let's say if it's a gadget, what is it that is difficult for you in this space? Just write in a word, what is the most complicated bit with this? And if it's a person, what's the trait that you are finding difficult when you are dealing with this person? Just put it out there. Just a word, okay? Quickly. And after you've done that, now look at the same object. Look at the same object. Look at yourself. Okay? And look at the other person that you are dealing with and write down, what is that one ray of hope? What makes it easy for me to deal with this person? What makes me easily handle this gadget or this object? What's a good thing about it? What's the best thing about this? If nothing else is working with this, but what is that minutest of thing that is, this is one thing which gives me a lead. This is one area where I can crack this, something. If you've done that, give me a thumbs up so I'll know. Yeah. Thank you. The others also. Let it be. Do not overthink the process. Whatever comes to your mind, the first responses that you're getting, so be it, and just track that. Okay, great. Thank you. Now let's get started. Okay, so why are we doing this? Was it easy? Let's just take quick responses for one from a few of you here. What was easy about doing this? What came up for you when you wrote down? What was difficult for you to deal with, and what was easy for you to deal with something? Will you share what opened up for you when you're noting this stuff? One or two of you, quickly, your process. There's no right, wrong answer. You're just sharing your experience. What opened up? Yes, Priya, please go ahead.
So I was thinking about this person who I recently met.
Mm-hmm.
So just a minute. So what was difficult for me is to trust the person,
Okay.
and what was easy for me is that I feel he gives me a hope that I can work on my desires anytime, and I
Okay.
don't have to give them up.
Okay. Brilliant.
That's
So what is it that you noticed when you looked at what's complex about it, wherever you are, and what happened when you looked at what is good about this? What did you notice? Any subtle shift in your being at that point?
yeah. When I wrote that it is difficult to trust the person,
Hmm?
I was feeling really sad that I have been through a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw a good point that okay, there is one thing which is really good, and
Mm-hmm.
I do want to fulfill all my desires, and he's gonna support me in that.
Mm.
So I was happy. My face, there was a smile on my face.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Did you notice that it was instantaneous? It just took you a couple of minutes to shift.
Yes, that was it.
Brilliant. Thanks. Thank you for sharing, Priya.
Thank
What's opening up for the rest of you as you heard Priya share and as you look at your own process as well? Will any of you want to share? If you want to take time to let it sink in, just let me know. Let us know that we'll know. Will you need some more time? Okay, take your time. Just be with your own spaces right now. Okay, now from hearing Priya, what I got, let me put that out. You're looking at a situation and how you are dealing with that, right, at any given time. And one could be consumed by the load of that, the weight of that event, or the person that you're dealing with, or the situation at hand, right? So there could be n number of thoughts on how do I crack this? How do I crack this? How do I deal with it? What should I put in, bring to the table to solve this effectively? Of course, there's a lot of cognitive process involved in that, how you're feeling, heavy, difficult scenario at hand, right? Now, what can be that one step forward? If we are looking at that, then we are going one step at a time, right? And we could begin that process with what's working in this scenario, or what is good about this, that one thing that is good about this. And if we choose to focus on that, then one step at a time, after you've looked at, focused on what is good here, you are in a better position than before, no, 1 minute before. And now standing from point A to point B, this is one step better than point A, right? And from point B, we could look at now what is good about this. And then you could build on, so on and so forth, right? And slowly you could work through dealing with that thing, choosing to focus on the positives. And like you all know, energy flows where attention goes, right? So when we choose to focus on what is workable in one scenario, what is easy in a particular situation, what is good about a person, what is it that I have, one good skill to help me, see through this battle, then I choose to focus on my strengths. I choose to focus on what is empowering me. I want to allow you all to let it sink in. Let's take a couple of seconds. That's why we started with an object, right? Whatever is complicated about it, if we look at this one thing, I can handle this bit, and then you slowly build. Similarly with a person outside, it's okay, I can't take on this whole persona, but this one trait, it makes me relate. I can still have a decent conversation with this person, and then you build, and then you communicate. Now, why we did that is, when we get a grip on what it is outside, let's move into something inside. How do I manage myself? And before we go dig in deeper, Nitiji, you've raised your hand. We'll just hear her for a bit.
Yes, Sindhu. I think I need to speak up a little more because I am getting a little lost in the process. So my takeaway is not as much. See, I have picked up an issue of a relationship.
Okay.
With a very close person.
Okay.
Which means a lot, and I've been working on it for a long time. Up until now, the only thing that has worked for me is my patience and staying a foot behind in my expression, in my sharing, and all of that. Right? Now, when you're talking about knowledge, what came to me was keep your patience. When you're talking about skill, bear with it. When you talk about quality, continue to take that behavior in your stride. Eventually, someday it will wear off, kind of a thing.
Okay.
And when I looked at the object, what came to me is I have to handle it carefully. So again, when I related back to this person, yes, I have to handle it carefully.
Okay.
Beyond this, I'm a little lost with your conversation and my situation.
Yes. Now let's steer through this, right? You're saying, let's take an example of how we can begin with the smallest step here. Will that work?
Yes.
Because I'm sure you have history with this person, or there's a lot of events around it. So within the time that we have, let's see what's that one step forward. Will that be good enough?
Sure.
Yeah. So you said right now, let's say, I'm lost. We'll begin there. So if the word is I'm lost, this is for all of us also to let's look at your own processes where you are. Okay, friends. Now, yeah, go ahead.
I have one more thing. It is not only I am lost, it is also I am tired of keeping the patient.
Got you. Right.
The tired factor, I think, is a little bigger than the lost factor.
Then we'll take that. Shall we take that? So sure. I am tired. Okay. Now look at this. Nitiji, I'm just taking your example. I'm not going into the content of the issue, but let's work with just one word pattern using NLP. A good start with a 2-minute understanding of how this technique can work in the smallest of ways and leading to biggest of impacts it can make, right? Okay. Now, if you just recount, Nitiji just put out a statement saying with respect to a particular relationship, when she's dealing with it, she said, I am tired. Okay. Now, when we are talking about I am tired, it's in the present tense. Right now, she's experiencing being tired about something, right? So which makes it my reality for now, right? So I am tired ka matlab I am feeling tired right now, and that is my current reality. And when I repeat it a couple of times, I am continuing to make it be alive. I am tired, I am tired, I am tired, right? And that becomes your state of being if you're looking at it, on the background. Now, of course, it would take a lot of work to change what is happening in that situation. But let's see where we begin. Just as simple as it can be, but it has profound impacts, my friends. Just give it a watch. Now, if I put this wording in the past, let's say, if I make this in the past, we're not changing the scenario. We are beginning, okay? I am tired, say, I have been tired in the past. Okay, I'm just changing the statement a bit. I have been feeling tired in the past, dealing with this person. How does that sound? I'm giving you a common example. Let's say I'm feeling impatient right now. I'm feeling confused. Okay, if that is for any of you, I'm confused, about some situation. If you're looking at your own, okay, for an example, I am confused. When I'm saying I'm confused, it means in the present state of being, I'm confused. And when I keep saying it, it is my reality. I'm confused. And it is alive. That confusion is alive. I'll have to go back to do my work on unknotting that issue, resolving it. Yes. But what puts me in an empowering place to begin with right now is by saying, I have been confused about this. I'm just putting it in the past. So right now, I can choose what I want to be. It creates a whole lot of possibilities for me when I'm saying I have been confused about it. Do you all notice that subtle shift? When I'm saying I have been confused about it, I have been impatient in dealing with my, this scenario, which means right now I can choose to be anything else. So I have a plethora of possibilities right now. And that's a good space for us to begin our work. Then I have a level playing field. Then I can create what I want. So I'm just going back to Nitiji. Nitiji, this is just that start, okay? So I have been feeling tired. How does that make you feel when you're looking at it rather than your right now reality?
See, cognitively, it makes me feel good, but physically, it's not impacting me.
It will. When you're staying at it, give it, allow that, because we have been saying this so many times in the past. It has created a certain reality and a certain experience it brings about as a package in your body, as felt experiences.
I would differ. Up until day before yesterday, I thought we had made a lot of breakthrough, and we were on a different plane, and suddenly, these snippets keep coming up. That is giving me this feeling that I took it up again, took up the issue in the 6 times. So it is not that it has been a long standing, for the past couple of months. Rather, in the last 1 month, it was a pretty decent interaction. And then suddenly this has again come up. So I would say it is like, oof, again now, I mean,
I get
I'll
that.
probably put it into the past already. So, that physical feeling is not getting changed.
So what we can do about that is go through some deeper or more intense processes going ahead. So if what we have done already hasn't nursed a certain wound, let's say physically, then it is an indication that it needs some deeper healing. So now why is it throbbing? Why is it paining? If I go into focusing on that, then I magnify the pain, the infection, what glorify this pain. If I look at, okay, what else now? Now, what I have done already hasn't been sufficient enough. It wasn't sufficient. Now, what do I need to do now to heal it further? Or how do I track down the root cause? So, because I may be treating the symptoms, I might have missed the root cause. Like, for example, any amount of going to a dermatologist for a skin eruption, topic applications they give, that doesn't work. Some drops they give doesn't work. Some, antibiotic, it doesn't work. So if I'm irritated with a person, let's say I'm angry and I don't have a voice, let's say I'm not taking up that issue with the person, I'm not confronting that, I'm boiling deep within. There is so much of this anger, rupture, friction inside that's not finding a vent. Now it has to show up somewhere. No, I'm not having a release vocally. It will show up as a boil, and if I don't attend to it, it becomes a cyst, it burns, then it bursts and becomes a wound. So going to the skin specialist doesn't solve this. I might need to look another way to heal this anger, resolve this bit. So when that irritation subsides, the skin issue subsides. I'm just giving you, drawing a parallel. So if this hasn't worked, then maybe some other area needs tinkering or some other area needs your attention. When that is taken care of, this will magically, the symptoms will just go when this is taken care of. Right?
Yeah.
So are we willing now to look at some other processes? Let's say, is that good? Okay. Let's go back to something else. So if anyone else wants to share where you are at this point, what has opened up for you, you're free to do that. Take your time. You could use a chat box. We could, as we go further down the topic also, you could raise your point. Now we look at something else, right? Managing the self, right? What you do in terms of tough situations. How do you manage yourself? When you're happy, you handle, you go with the flow. If you're stuck, what do you do? Let's look at some things as simple as this. How do you deal with it? Just put in a word or two. How do you deal with it already? And then let's look at how can we use NLP to deal with it. Just a word in the chat box of how do you deal with it when you're experiencing any stuckness. From the past, if you had, let's say, a difficult day at work with a person in your home, or with dealing with your own self, some intra conflict, how did you deal with it? Just a word or two in the chat box.
Intuji, I'd like to come in.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. I think it's confused, how to deal with that sort of a person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at this now. Okay. So I'm just about going to give you, one such technique which we could use, which puts us in a better place than we are, right? So hold on. Okay. So let's look at this. Okay. As others are thinking of how did I deal with this? Saminaji, we are right now looking at how did I successfully cause a breakthrough in dealing with myself in some area, right? So let's look at that. Okay. So for all of you, just give me a thumbs up once you have got a situation in hand where you didn't know how you were going to deal with it, okay? And you did it. It can be something like a self-doubt, you're going up on the stage. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can deliver this decent speech in front of this audience. Have you been in those situations where you have been a little confused, troubled, upset, whatever it is, powerless, right? And you made it. You ended up putting up a good show. You presented well, or an exam, you were upset. I don't know if I can handle this. And then you did well. You came out, in flying colors, something like that. Are there times when you knew you couldn't do it, and then you did something there, some magic happened, and then you successfully completed it? Can you think of those times? Once you have gone back to one of those times where you put out a good show, give me a nod or wave your hand. Yeah. So you made it. Okay, that's the feeling. If you have some incident where you finally made it, right, just put up your hand. If you, or thumbs up. Great, brilliant. Okay, great. So now we are going to look at a process where we are going to look at how I had doubts about how can I handle this, how can I manage myself, how do I overcome my fear, how do I overcome my doubt, how do I overcome my lack of power in this area. Two, I did something to make this happen, to make this work, right? So you're having those two things at your hand. The starting point was the exercise that we began with. There's some stuckness, some area, and what's the one good thing there? That's the beginning, right? One level of shifting from stuckness to hope. Now we are looking at a deeper process where we had a difficult scenario at hand and we successfully broke through, right? We won through that situation. Now, I want you to sit down, ensure that you're seated comfortably, go back, preferably close your eyes, and allow yourself to think of that scenario where you accomplished it. Okay, close your eyes and think of the time you made it. You made something happen in your favor. You came out successfully. Dealing with a crisis, a person, or a situation, how you handled yourself. Just when you thought you can't do this, how did you manage yourself? How did you raise beyond your doubts, your abilities? How did you successfully put out a good show? Think of that. Now close your eyes, go back to the time that you emerged victorious, and look at those people who were there, if there were anybody there, appreciating you for your feat, your success. Visualize, what did they say? Hear what you heard at that time. How do they congratulate you? If there were people at a presentation, at a meeting, in the audience clapping for you when you completed it successfully. How did it feel when you touched that certificate, trophy, medal, that race that you ran, and you were standing on the podium, they gave you that medal? After that debate, that competition, whatever it is, people acknowledged you. Some great comments about how well you had performed, people clapping, appreciating, lauding. Think of that, hear all of that, see all of that, experience all of that thrill. And in that space, when you're feeling high, just look at what were those qualities, what were those resources that you used to make this happen. If it was confidence, yes, look at it. If it was patience, if it was your sense of humor that got you through, if it was your street smartness, if it was your common sense, if it was your presence of mind, grit, perseverance, whatever was that quality, that resource which made you achieve this. Think of those qualities. Being a team player, being able to think quickly on your feet. What got you through? Was that ability to be compassionate towards another being? Or was it your own, inner strength that saw you through that? Whatever that resource was, look at it carefully and soak in the strength of that resource. And what I want you to now do is, with your eyes still closed, take your index finger off your dominant hand, okay, your right hand or left hand, which you use more, and with your eyes still closed, gently place a finger on the inside of your other elbow, the inner crease of your other elbow, and gently anchor that resource. If it was courage, if it was confidence, if it was your sense of humor, if it was your ability to have faith in the times of adversities, if it was your intelligence, if it was a quality to trust in people, love, joy, whatever it is, enthusiasm that got you through, just take in all of that heights of that resource and how you were able to emerge successfully in a situation, and anchor it onto your body. Just a mild pressure to remind your body to be able to soak in all of that resourcefulness. And once you have done that, gently remove your hand and allow that sensation to expand itself all through your body. That confidence. Fill yourself up of that courage. Fill yourself brimming with that hope, faith, love, joy. And once you have done that, what you're going to do is take all of this resourcefulness back into that area of stuckness. You identified a scenario that you are finding challenging to deal with, an area where you're having self-doubts, an area where you could have some confusions, an area where you could be experiencing some stuckness. Take it there. Relive this moment of joy, exuberance, celebration when you emerge successfully using these qualities. Take the essence of these qualities back into that memory where you wished you had these resources. Put it there, and now look at that scenario differently. Look at this situation differently. How would it be different if I had a lot of this patience in this scenario? If I had a lot of courage to speak, to express, self-expression in this scenario? If I had the gift of this humor, how do I deal with it in a fun-loving manner? Put it there. If I had grit, perseverance, how I would win this situation? If I have the ability to stick around long enough, how can I deal with this area successfully? Take back all of these resources, put it there, and now see what you're seeing in this situation. Now hear what you hear and experience what you're feeling. Notice how it is different. And once you have done that, gently come back and open your eyes. Now, as you are here, I want you to take a moment to look at a future event, any other scenario which you may be dealing with, right? Which may come into your way. Now, take this experience and put it there. We are going to be future pacing in a given situation in the future when it is called for me to use this resource, to display enormous amount of courage, to display enormous amount of love, patience, enormous amount of this resource that I've had, which has made me emerge successful in the past. Visualize that you are putting or displaying that ability in that scenario. Take a moment to close your eyes and quickly program yourself to be able to retrieve this whenever you want. Now you could do it by once again, triggering that spot where you had pressed. Just gently give a mild pressure onto that inner crease of your elbow, the other elbow, and trigger that. Make it familiarized with what you're doing. Make your body get used to bringing in your support system from within. Generate that hope, generate that patience, generate that courage. Whatever resource you need in that situation. Gently remind yourself that you can do it whenever you want, at your beck and call. You could generate enormous amount of that energy at your own will. No matter what the external situation is. Situations will change, but your ability to display extraordinary qualities to win through it will only get better and better. On that note, gently open your eyes and come back on. Right. So Shakti ji, Kunan ji, if any of you want to share where you are right now, please go ahead. Yes, Shakti, please share.
It's awesome, ma'am. Thank you so much. If I could handle that one now, I can handle anything that moves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. I do have one question, ma'am. Is there any the spot which you mentioned? Is there any other spots? It's like only specific spots I need to touch or anything I can?
I'll tell you. Yes. Thank you for asking. First of all, brilliant. So this is what I'd like for others as well, right? That ability to harness on your own power and deal with yourself, in an empowered fashion going forward. So remind yourself of the magnificent person that you have been and you will always be. That's the idea, right? So thanks for sharing, Shakti, your experience. And to answer your question, right? So you'd ask, are there any specific points, to set these anchors? So my answer is technically anywhere will do, right? Any spot is fine. The things to keep in mind is if it is a very often touched area, the body can get very confused, right?
Yes.
Yes. Any point will work. Any point will work.
Okay.
The only thing is, see, if you're accidentally triggering any of this can be touched. No, anyone can hold your hand, shake your hand. So a commonly, most frequently touched parts of the body can get confused whether it's a trigger or it is, accidentally being accelerated. So the, infrequently used parts, you are more conscious that this can be exclusively used for that. That's the only idea. So, Deepak sir, please give your inputs, which will be highly appreciable as well. Later, yes. So reserving the best for the last. So yes, so I'm sure with all his years of experience and the way he's worked, he'll be able to bring his view on this. But this is my take on it. So when it is a very common thing, it can get confused or fade out. Yes, so Deepak sir, please.
So I usually use pinching my finger or, this one, or sometimes even this one. It depends. So I have 2 or 3. But this one I use often for this one, right? So it can be anything, I suppose.
Yes. Whatever works. See, with NLP or anything in life, keep what works for you. Discard what doesn't work for you. As simple as. The world can tell you this will work. And if you're not connecting, nothing on earth is going to work. So you might as well do what works for you. Simple, right? So
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Most welcome. And also there are, these things we learn, but we have these innate intelligence as human beings. We do what helps us instant, even sometimes without our awareness. When you're thinking, some people do this, rub their forehead, some people just do this, anything, no, some people sit like this. And if we're talking of mudras, they say when you do this deliberately, you can deal with confusions better. They say this is the mudra. But without awareness also, people, when you're in deep thought, you go into this posture, right? Your hands come together when you're deeply thinking, contemplating something. So we have that innate intelligence to come up with these things which help us. So use them to your good advantage. Yeah. Anyone else would like to share at this point where you are? So take your time. Okay. Take your time to put out. And I'll take another 5 minutes and wrap this up, if that's okay, right? Just 5 more minutes. So now we're moving on to something, let's say, foundational. I'm just using one of the presuppositions of NLP, like one of the tenets it vociferously advocates. And I have used it left, right, center, and seen advantages. And I would like to share from that. Most of you are familiar, right, of this story where there was this man in the village. It's a Chinese story that we've heard. You must have heard. I'm quickly just going through the story. It says there was this man in the village, and one of the days, a horse just lost its way from the troop, from the army that was going past their village, and he just magically found a horse in his backyard that day. And then all the villagers gathered to say, what a lucky man you are. You just miraculously found a horse. It's a fortune, right, to have a horse. So you have a horse in your backyard without having to pay for it. What a lucky man you are. And he said, so be it, right? And he just let it be. And what happens is, 2 days, 3 days later, people are all coming in, flocking in to see the horse. They're still all re-emphasizing that you're such a lucky man, such a lucky man. So he's just come and he says, okay. And then the next week, he finds that one day again, the night, the horse vanishes. And everyone has again gathered from the village saying, how unlucky, nothing stays with you. You just get lucky and then it disappears into thin air. And he says, so be it. And then what happens the next day morning, when he wakes up, there are 4 in the backyard. So now this house is gone, and he's just met with his other friends, and he's brought back 4 of them. And again the villagers flock and to remind him, saying, what a enormously lucky guy you are to have 4 of them. And he says, so be it. And then what happens is his son comes down from the army for a holiday. So what he does is he's riding one of these horses, and he has a fall and he breaks a toe. So he ends up with an infection where one of his legs have to be amputated, right? So now he's without one leg, and the whole village gathers and says, what an unlucky man you are, your only son, and he has now broken his leg. How will he get married? He's not going to get a job. He can never go back to the army again. How unlucky. Says, so be it. And then what happens, there is a call for people to fight the war in the land. So all the youth in that land are commanded to fight that battle. And as luck would have it, because this guy is now wounded and without a leg, he doesn't have to go, because all the youth are compulsorily commissioned for fighting the war. And then you never know whether they're going to come back or not. Now the whole same village that said you were unlucky, now he says, you're lucky, your guy just broke a leg, but his life is spared, right? And then life goes on, right? So this perspective of fortune, misfortune, fortune, misfortune keeps coming up when we see only one event, one episode exclusively, right? But when you look at the larger picture, everything works for our best in divine design. Trust in the process of life, right? When we see with our limited scope and vision, what can be seemingly, misfortune or stuckness or problematic, can become a boon in disguise, which we may not know. If we just waited long enough, you'll know what's in store. If we just stuck around some more time, something good is going to emerge of whatever it is. What I wanted to share is the switching, the situation remains the same. How you look at it, take it neutrally and trust in the process of life can just see you through all situations in life. And that's what in NLP we call as reframing. You look at something with a certain lens and think it is, a failure. You may think it is loss. You may think it is disruption, a problem. But when you're looking at it from another lens, okay, this was good about it. Yes, I broke my leg, but my life is spared. Yes, I made a few losses, but I didn't go entirely broke. If today you're worried, I don't have this much money, but look at it. You have food on your plate, you have a shelter on your head. Look at that change in perspective. You all have heard this cliche thing, no? You're so worried about the shoes, the brands that you don't have, but look at the man who's walking without a foot, without a leg, and then you're in a better place. You're worried your relationship with your spouse is not all right. Just take a few seconds. You still have a spouse, somebody to share your life with. You're worried about the fights that you've had, but just look at it. You are fighting because you're talking, no? So still there is hope in that relationship. There are relationships where it's stone walled. I don't care whether you eat or not. But here you have a wife nagging. You have not eaten enough. You have wasted your food. She's nagging, but she's still there. You have a relationship still going. Any scenario. Once in one of my audience, I did have a person come up and ask, Indu ma'am, you're all the time talking about gratitude. How can you be grateful for one good thing that is happening? He said, I met with a major accident a couple of years. The car rammed into something. Some of you may also know this had happened in live forum. He said, I rammed into my car, met with a major accident. I was hospitalized, bedridden for a couple of months. What can be good about this major accident in my life? Then I had asked, how many children do you have? He said at that point, this was about 4 years back, a son and a daughter. They are now, the son is now married, yes, for 2 years. But at that time, the children weren't married. Back when he was met with an accident, they hadn't finished their education also. So the only thing that I'd asked him is, yes, you met with that accident, which was unfortunate, but you survived that accident, isn't it? What if something had happened to you on that day? What if you died? If your children had not taken, their education forward, what would be the life that they would be living now without a father? What could have happened to the family, your spouse? So you lived, and now he lives on gloriously, God willing, right? So in any scenario, you look at what's the best thing right now in this area. So that I found is phenomenal. If you have that ability to pull out what is one good thing about this person, what is this one bleak, however meek it is, that one ray of hope in this event. When you've lost hope in your own self, remind yourself of the good things that you have done in the past. That is what I put you through, the experience where when you're feeling totally lost, think of the times what you have achieved, and then draw your source of energy from your own being, from the extraordinary being that you had been at one point. And then you work to resolve whatever you want from an empowering state, not from a state of lack, from an empower. I have done this, I can make it. And from that space, when you work, anything is possible. What you create is nothing short of magic from that space. On that note, I'd like to invite you all to share where you are, your comments, and then I'll invite Sukdeepak sir to also share his inputs on this. And before that, thank you all for having always been a wonderful receptive audience. And thank you, sir, for allowing me this opportunity one more time to connect with our friends. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Indu. Perfect session. I'm very happy with it.
Thank you.
And now you understand why I'm calling you again and again.
It's my
thank
pleasure
you very much
entirely.
on behalf of everyone here. And I've requested our friend Kunen also to say a few words for you. So Kunen, over to you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Indoji. I'll request all to give her a big, big, big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Indoji took us through a wonderful process, a step by a step, how to manage your mind. And that's how all about the NLP. And I'm sure in the future session as well, we'll be interacting, we'll be learning more about NLP. And as you all know, that technique which will empower us to manage our mind in a more smarter way. So she taught us how to shift from a stuckness to hope, faith, and how we can shift our mind and reframe to look from a different perspective. Because when we start changing the way we look, the things gets changed. That's the beauty. And very beautifully, she explained the story of the Chinese and the horses. And it's, I think we are going to remember that very, it's easy to remember the stories. So it's all about believing in self. It's all about having faith. It's all about trusting the process. And that's what we do every morning in Empowering Morning Conversations with Sukdeepak Malwai. We shift from default to create mode. And when we shift, and when we in the present, by letting us know that so be it, then that reflects that we are present in the present, having faith and conviction and belief on self and the universe with complete allowance. Then magic happens, because we all are energy being. And when we are in that state of energy being with infinite possibilities, infinite things will happen to us to get all the accomplishment done. So thank you so much, ma'am. Great session.
Absolutely. And I'm beaming, for one reason. I think it pays off to be in EMC every morning. Just look at Konanja. He has encapsulated every philosophy that gets spoken about in EMC in one breath, I would say. Remarkable. Yes. So kudos to you.
How about a share, Shahid Izad, to close the session? Your share.
Close the session. शायरी एक हो जाए. जनाब कुलदीप सर नहीं है शायद आज.
नहीं.
कुलदीप सर नहीं है तो मैं एक शायरी सुनाता हूँ. इंदु जी आपके लिए है कि खोल दो पंख मेरे, कहता है परिंदा उड़ान बाकी है. खोल दो पंख मेरे, कहता है परिंदा उड़ान बाकी है. जमी नहीं है मंजिल मेरी, अभी पूरा आसमान बाकी है. जमी नहीं है मंजिल मेरी, अभी पूरा आसमान बाकी है. और अर्ज किया है कि लहरों की खामोशी को समंदर की बेबसी मत समझना. लहरों की खामोशी को समंदर की बेबसी मत समझना. जितनी गहराई अंदर है, बाहर उतना तूफान बाकी है.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Induji.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
session.
Thank you.
And see you all tomorrow morning for another session of Empowering Morning Conversations. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Hasina ji. Thank you. Thank you, Sakshi ji. All of that appreciation. Thank you.